Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello and welcome aboard the U.S.S. Driftwood. I'm Admiral Newman.
Am I Ensign Linda?
Everybody has to use a rank when you introduce yourself. No.
Oh God.
Okay, so Admiral Linda.
All right.
Counselor Adams Valadez.
Okay.
Captain Mark Kitchell.
Nice.
Carlson Engineering.
Oh yeah. Chief Engineer Charles Turpin.
First Officer Chris.
Nice. All right.
Number one.
I mean, that's why I had to be counselor. Someone has to control the drugs on the ship.
Fair point. So if you guys haven't figured it out yet, we're going to be talking about the series and season finale for Star Trek Picard, which just finished up on Thursday. Last episode aired, and lots of good feels in this one. Let's jump to Mark for some initial commentary. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I just have to say, as someone who grew up in the 90s and watched The Next Generation religiously, I probably have seen through the series no less than 7 times.
Fair.
You know, these are seasons back when they were real seasons, right? 26 episodes a season.
Right.
There's no joke, right?
Right. That's a small accomplishment.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Life well spent. But the nostalgia and the callbacks that they did in this final season, right, they're incredible. They really hit a lot of really cool notes in the first 2. But this one was really about, it seemed like a big thank you to all fans of The Next Generation. Just all the way through, they gave us, you know, what are these people up to now in their lives? And it was just so cool. And then they brought the Enterprise D out, right, for them to fly their very last mission together. That was it was the coolest thing. Like I was falling out of my chair. It was great.
Yeah, it was really, I saw it as a love letter to the fans, this whole season. Chris, you're probably one of the next biggest fans of Star Trek here. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It was kind of a love letter to fans. So I'll piggyback off of that.
Okay.
You know, we get a lot of shows these days that attempt to bring people back to something that used to be, whether that's, you know, Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever. Sure. And they always feel the need to change it up a little bit. And then sometimes you never really get that nostalgia that you want. That's something to bring you back. And Picard season 3 did what, frankly, season 1 and 2 kind of fell short on.
Yeah.
Of reuniting the people that you want to see, talking about the things that matter, old jokes that, you know, whether that's Data's limerick, you know, and all of these kinds of things that really mattered, even down to joking about whose fault it was for destroying whatever ship and all that kind of stuff was phenomenal. And so the show speaks to true, well, I won't say true, but real The Next Generation fans, right? It really was, if you wanted to have a proper a send-off, you know, to really put a bow on this, that's what they did, and they managed to accomplish it. I think they managed to muddy the water in some areas a little bit. We'll talk about the Borg. I really want to talk about the Borg a little bit. And you know, I think the only thing, you know, if I was to nitpick and try to find something I wish they did more on, was Shaw. I felt Shaw was really kind of a good interpretation of you know, everything that could be right with Starfleet, but is also wrong. And you know, he even admits it in the end, you know, in his recording of his review of 7 of 9.
Right.
But I felt like he got shafted a little bit in how he has his exit. It wasn't as epic as I would hope it would be, or anything of that nature. Takes a phaser and then that's it.
Right.
I wish there was more for Shaw, but I do think it was the right call.
Yeah.
I just felt that he could have found a better exit. I think. I don't know what
Yeah.
it would have been, but
right. I was kind of sad to see him bite it because I thought he would have been a good character to see. Assuming that based on the ending of the final episode, that there's going to be another series with 7 of 9 at the helm of the Enterprise. I would have liked to have seen him show up in that occasionally because, I mean, he's
a good character.
In a way, they could have written that out.
Yeah.
Is they could have had it where she has a court date and he's there to testify. And what he gave in that review is what he says. And maybe he resigns as part of Starfleet, calling himself that relic, saying Starfleet doesn't need more of me. They need more of her. And that's where she gets, promoted to captain or whatever based off of his recommendation. But, we don't see any of that. Maybe he's promoted up and he has the authority now to make her a captain. And that's what he does. And, whatever. Right. But yeah, I felt like more could have been done with Shaw. I get why they did what they did and it works, but he played such a pivotal, reality check for Riker and Picard when they come on his ship and he's like, no games.
Right.
None of your BS.
He's such a good actor. I mean, the monologue he delivered in 10 Forward when he was talking about why he is the way he is.
Yep.
And the whole Wolf 359 thing I thought was just fantastic.
Yep.
And, the whole season, he was just such a great foil because you have, Jenny, I don't think you've seen it, right?
No, but I'm a big fan of Next Generation.
You're familiar with the Next Generation, right? Yeah. So, you have what is now Admiral Picard and Captain Riker, and they come aboard the Titan, which this character Shaw is the captain of, and they come on thinking, well, they're all this and that kind of a thing, and he doesn't give a shit. He's like, great, you're a retired admiral and you're a captain without a ship, he says to Riker. So kind of a thing. He has no respect for him, and mostly that's due to traumatic experience from him being at Wolf 359 and Picard destroying the ship he was on, and almost all of his crewmates died, except for him and a few others that some lieutenant ordered them onto an escape pod, and they got off before the whole ship was destroyed.
One of 3 survivors off of the whole
survivor's
ship.
guilt.
Yeah. So he doesn't like those two. He thinks they're mavericks, they're cowboys, and that they leave nothing but destruction in their wake, kind of a thing. And so he was good. He was a great foil for them, and he even signs them quarters on the ship, and you think they'd get their own nice quarters. They're in like a cruise quarters in bunk beds.
Picard got the top bunk though.
Yes, right. So yeah, it was incredible. Well, so let's talk, and Linda, you can feel free to jump in here too, and Charles, what were your favorite things that happened in this season or in the final episode? What did you like most? Let's start with Linda, since she hasn't talked yet.
Wait, what am I answering?
That's always a hard question.
Your favorite parts of Picard.
Yeah, what was your most memorable parts of the season or the final episode?
The ending where they're all sitting around playing cards.
Yeah.
Like it was very much like the original ending of the series.
All good things.
And it just kind of brought it to a perfect close.
Yeah. All right.
I've been, Picard gives a toast at the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anybody caught, but it's actually stolen. It's what Brutus gave to.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody else knows this.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out how it's sort of a weird place it fit perfect.
Yeah.
Especially knowing Picard
and his love of Shakespeare and all that.
And his love of Shakespeare and also he had a love of like the Odyssey and such.
Yeah.
And so it's a very good quote for that. but he stole it from Brutus, which is a weird place to have stolen it.
Hmm.
To me.
Yeah.
I mean, he's about to betray Caesar. He's talking to everybody into betraying Caesar. Right?
But not surprising, it was Shakespeare.
But it was Shakespeare. No, and it fit perfect. It fit better on this than it would have in Shakespeare and Julius Caesar. So,
for those watching, this scene right there is the OG.
Yeah,
is the original
OG scene from Next Gen.
Yep.
One thing I didn't look at that might, Linda, maybe you can see if you can find it. I wonder if the scene of them sitting around the table in the final episode, if they're in the same positions as they were in the Next Gen ending.
I'm not finding one of the newer ones, so.
Well, they paid a lot of attention to detail.
I know
in all of this. Like it would not
surprise me.
Incredible amounts. Yeah.
Right.
And they really did take a lot of care with it. And I think when they got all the actors back together, they saw kind of what they had too, and they're like, okay, these people have been missing doing this together, right? Because to a person, when they talk about their time on the Next Generation in the original series. Not the original series, excuse me. That is something specific in the Star Trek universe. But in the Next Generation, they talk about it very, very fondly. And they talk about how much they loved working together, and it really showed. In this, in this season. Just the little jokes that they were making. Worf constantly joking about, being disappointed that he's not dead yet.
Yes.
Right. Like today's a great day to die.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. We might
survive.
Live this, or we might survive this.
I cracked up so much at that part.
Oh my gosh! It was
no, they're not. They're not in the same order because Troy was to his right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we watched last night. There's a YouTube interview with showrunner Terry Matalas. And
it was awesome.
Really good interview. Anyway, he said that final scene where they're playing poker, he just put him there, and they had a few lines to say, but he just let him ad lib, and they let the camera go around and record for 45 minutes while they just ad libbed and joked with each other. And he said that'll probably be commentary or additional bonus features they'll put on the Blu-ray. But wouldn't that be awesome to watch that? I mean, I would buy the Blu-ray just for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he said,
so I have to,
go ahead, Jenna.
I have to ask you all, because the whole reason I've not watched this, because I'm such a huge fan of Next Generation, and for the same reason that Chris said, that like a lot of shows have been trying to come back and pull nostalgia of, the first time around with certain series, like Star Wars, and you just don't want to be disappointed.
Yeah.
So from like each of you, why should someone who's maybe been afraid to have that ruined, why should they watch this? Go back and watch it now, even if it's over.
So let me jump in on that. And let me say that Patrick Stewart did not want to come back and reprise the role that he had already done.
Right.
He said, I feel like we've written that book. We've closed that book. He said, if I'm going to come back and do a series, it's got to be something different. It's got to move on. It's got to present a different aspect. And the whole point of this thing is not trying to redo what they already did. It's to bring you up to speed for everybody that loved that original series, to find out what has happened to these characters 35 years later when we catch up to them, or whatever the time frame is, 30 years later, right? How has time changed them? What have they gone on to do? And are they still friends with each other? Do they still get together and see each other? And essentially it's you're catching up with this family all these years later, and some of them have not been in contact for that entire time.
Beverly ghosted them.
Yeah, they pretty much ghosted them. And so why is that? And what is going on there? And some of the characters have gotten a little jaded, right? And in Picard's case, you would expect, if they were going to do a next gen bring back, you'd see him as an admiral in command of a fleet or a ship somewhere, right?
Yeah,
And do that kind of thing. And this is not like that at all. He resigned from Starfleet, and I mean, in the original the first season, we see that he resigned from Starfleet years ago, and he's been retired on his vineyard, essentially just waiting to die.
Well, he's been pissed at Starfleet too when it starts
right,
out.
Right, very angry at Starfleet and very disillusioned.
It's much more. If I can,
yeah.
Most of this is personal to Picard, and so it plays out really. And I think he's in the vineyard waiting to die almost. He's bored to death, and then an event will show up.
Yeah,
and you can just hear him go, "Game's afoot," almost. You know, he's like, oh.
Right, right.
The universe needs me one last time. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and and the first two seasons, I really liked both first two seasons. I thought they were really well done. They had a lot of all three seasons were really quite different. I was kind of surprised to see the Borg come back in the final season, right? But it was interesting in the Terry Matalas interview that I was talking about earlier. He said that they were kind of trying to figure out what this season was going to be like, and they're in the writer's room talking with Patrick Stewart to try to flesh it out. And he said, well, what is the most traumatic thing that ever happened to Captain Picard? And he said, well, obviously his assimilation by the Borg, right? And his being turned into Locutus and destroying the thing that he loved, the Federation or Starfleet. And he said, okay, so for Captain Picard, then, what would he see as the worst possible thing that could happen to his son? And he said, when I said that to him, he sat up in his chair and he leaned in on the table and he said, turning him into Locutus. And he said, and that's when we had the season. So, so yeah, he said it was just made sense that would be the way to go with it. So it was a really good interview. There was a lot of interesting stuff in that. I'll post. Well, we can post the link.
I'll do that
when we put this episode out, and then I'll also post it for you guys so that you can watch it separately in the Discord thing. But yeah, it was a very good interview. A lot of good stuff there, and he's hoping, and I hope too, that Terry Matalas gets brought back by Paramount to make this. A lot of people have been calling it Star Trek Legacy. I mean, obviously it's not got an official name yet, but a follow-up spin-off. So Jenna, we see at the end of this one that you see our crew around playing poker, but you also see Picard's son on the ship of what is now NCC 1701G. Because they introduce F in this episode, but it doesn't last long. And that's
a weird.
He's on that, and he's like an advisor to the captain. And the captain of 1701G is Jerry Ryan, 7 of 9, and Raffi is her first officer. So, and the crew of that, the Navigator is Geordie LaForge's show daughter. So it looks like there's the 1701G. So they set it off, and they did a fantastic teaser when you see 7 of 9 getting ready to send the ship to warp. Everybody's waiting for what's her, is it going to be engaged? Let's fly, that sort of thing. And she looks and she opens up her mouth to say something, and then it just cuts, and you see the ship going to warp, and that's it. So we're gonna have to wait for her signature phrase, I guess, but hopefully we'll get that answered soon. So, but yeah, I think there were a lot of things. What do you guys think about the differences between the original series and this one? Because it's definitely not trying to recapture that initial magic. It's more or less just reuniting with these folks, see where they are. But
I'll jump in on this one, right? So Picard, the first 2 seasons, they were odd, right? They were very different. You're kind of maybe expecting a little bit more of the nostalgia angle, and then on the third season, they gave us a lot of it, right? But in each of those, there was a very specific thing, a very specific arc for Picard himself, and so the series was really aptly named, right?
Yeah.
So the first season was him getting him out of that funk, of having resigned from Starfleet and kind of lost his way. The second season was really about him learning how to connect with other people. I think that was probably Q's big gift, on his way out. And then the third season was him being able to tie things up with his trauma with the Borg, and really, really connect with his Starfleet family for one last time. So each season had a very specific different thing that was happening for that character. So it was just really, it was a really cool way to send Picard's character off in the series, right? All Good Things was really cool. They actually kind of did kind of a similar thing in that episode, right? Where they kind of jumped him around in time and saw, imagined what he might be like or what might be going on in his world. And this time we got to see, the canon timeline play out, and it was really, really cool, really gratifying. So yes, do watch. Highly recommended.
Okay, so maybe call back to nostalgia is not a good term. I think what you get afraid of is that they don't stay true to the characters and to the laws of that universe that they've created in the original story. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
If they're gonna do it, you want to make sure that they're staying true to the characters and not completely changing them.
Chris, you want to take that one on? What'd you think?
Yeah. So, to a point Bill mentioned earlier, as well as Mark talking about the different arcs of Picard in the seasons and the character development. Bill mentioned earlier, there's been a large period of time where we've been disconnected from them in reality and in the show. So it's hard to stay true to something after, was it 30, 35 years going into the future. We see how some of these people have changed. Riker's become a family man, but not really. He's more excited to get back into danger and get on a ship and leave town, right? Him and Diana don't have the connection that they once had, and that's something they've been struggling through. Beverly is almost an entirely different person. She's a is smuggler too harsh of a word? She's like a smuggler now with her son running across the galaxy. And she can lock and load phasers and blow people away now.
She's kind of like Doctors Without Borders in space.
Yes, yeah, like Doctors Without Borders in space, yeah. But she's different. She's more aggressive now. She speaks her mind more directly now. And I like that side of her, but she's changed a lot, And Picard has to come to terms with that. Like this isn't the same Beverly that you knew and had a relationship with prior. You have Worf, who's completely who's embraced meditations, right? And while he can still be extremely violent, he's taken on a separate kind of mental focus in life on how he approaches things. And then you have Data when Data, kind of re-enters as their Data. He also has some things he has to deal with. Data's got to initially when they find Data and they boot him back up, so to speak, he's got two personalities, if you will. Him and his brother
Lore.
Oh my gosh, Lore. Thank you.
Well, and he's also got some before in there, right?
Yeah, and he's got some before in there. Right. So Data also is dealing with that. Data was great because you get these hints of, he's more human now. And every time that's kind of always been the goal, is to become more human for him. So now he's got angst, he's got anxiety, he's got ambition. He's got, hey, Captain, take me along. You need me. Put me in, Coach. You don't typically get that with Data. It's more logical. And even when, he has that minor confrontation, confrontation is too strong of a word, the back and forth with him and the crew when they get the Enterprise D and they need to fly into the Borg ship, they're like, this is impossible. And he's like, no, I got this. I need you to trust me. I got this.
Trust
And
my
I thought
gut.
it was, yeah. And I what I felt was interesting was, you would think, he's still Data. So if anyone could do it,
Yeah.
it's gonna be him. And so the crew's lack of like faith, I'm like, really? Like if anyone can computationally figure this out,
Right.
he's sitting right there.
Although in all fairness, he does have sort of a human body now, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because his
Yeah, so he
consciousness
can
has
grow
been put
old
into
and
a
age and
physical
stuff
body.
like that. But yeah.
And
Yeah.
he even goes to shake his head one time and gets a little crink in his neck and he goes, ow.
That's what this is like. Yeah.
He goes, this is fascinating.
Yeah. So despite all of that, yeah, you're right. Nostalgia is not quite the right word. It's more of, can they stick the landing for how these characters develop over the decades that we've had?
Yeah.
And then are they going to end it, with killing somebody and give us this tragic loss? And they don't kill who you think they might kill. Well, maybe no, I kind of assume they would kill Shaw. But of the original family members, I think a lot of people went into season 3 assuming it was going to be Picard's final season. And even leading up to the last episode or two, they keep driving us towards that it's a dead end for Picard.
Yeah.
He's going to give it all up for his son, or he's going to die trying. And we don't get that. They figure it out, like they do, and it ends up being the ending that I think we all would have wanted to begin with.
Yeah, I was really scared at the end of the last episode there when he's heading into the heart of the Borg cube and he grabs one of the cords.
At that point, I had assumed this is it.
Yeah, he's done.
Yep. But that's his sacrifice, right?
Yeah. I would have been really upset if that happened.
Mm-hmm. So. I think a lot of people would have, and I think having that vision in mind where they're sitting around in the poker table at the end was where they wanted to get back to. Yeah, I think that's what they wanted. Mm-hmm. This was a last ride for all of us, and getting to see the OG crew. Yeah. And they even speak to some of that. What are you going to miss most about the ship? Oh, it's the carpet. Like right. They touched on so many key things that mattered from the Next Generation, not just things because they could do it, but even down to when we first see Worf in his meditation training, the music that they're playing is the same music that Picard was listening to in First Contact. When what's her name comes in there to confront Picard because he's not making the decision to abandon the ship and get off, and he's listening to this classical piece, and Worf is listening to the exact same thing in the future here now, in his meditation practices. Those are like just minor cues that take you back and just show the greatest attention to detail. The greatest attention to detail.
Yeah, the music was amazing. And they even brought back Jerry Goldsmith to do the conducting for the music and writing a lot of that, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
This
is I was telling Gina last night, I was like, whoever they brought in to bring this together and just figure it out, I want them making more Star Trek content in the future.
Yeah, well, that was Terry Matalas.
Yeah, so those creative minds are perfect.
Yeah. And he has like a group of people that he works with from the 12 Monkeys series that he did.
Oh.
So he was involved in that. So, but he grew up on the original series, and as a kid, watching it with his father on Sundays, and then we got into, was it college? I think he said is when he started, watching Next Gen. It was always on in the dormitory or whatever, and so he got hooked on Next Gen, and he said he just, and then he said he wanted to get into movies and television, and so he wrote every department at Paramount for Star Trek and sent his application in to be a unpaid intern to try to get on with them. And he said it was about 6 months, and he figured it was never going to happen. So he was kind of moved on. And then all of a sudden he got a call, and they needed an intern to help in post-production. and that's how he got started. And
Wow.
yeah, and that was like, I think the final few seasons, maybe final 2 seasons of Next Gen. And
Oh.
so he said, and I was just doing stuff like running scripts around between different departments and getting coffee and donuts and,
Oh my God.
yeah, just dumb shit. And he said, and then eventually I got hired as a PA on Next Gen. And then he went on to work on Voyager. And so he said, I know all these crews. He said, I love the series. He said, it's deep in my heart. And he said, I wanted this final season of Picard to be a love letter to the fans. And so
That's cool.
yeah, you can really see that. I mean, there was so much in there, and I loved Ro Laren's return. And I think,
oh my gosh,
I think the way she went out, I hated to see it happen, but I thought she had a heroic end.
And that's kind of what I would have wanted for Shaw, right? Like they found the exits for people that worked really, really well for what they were doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But Shaw,
go ahead.
Yeah, Shaw had so much acting chops. Like I just wanted more of him. Every scene he was in, was just like, oh, what's going to happen now? Right.
He's a fun character.
That he could have been one, to your point, Bill, that they could have reprised his role almost anywhere.
Yeah.
And had him give sass. Maybe not as a captain, but like whenever there were issues and somebody had to call back to home base for guidance or whatever, he'd be on the other line and like, oh, not this guy. Please, not this guy.
Right.
Gonna get an earful.
Right. Well, just a little side note here. They were, and Mark will be happy to hear this because Mark is a huge fan. But Mark, you'll be happy to know that there is a Ready Room episode for the final season, so you and Zach can watch that tonight.
Oh, for the final episode?
Yeah.
I'll definitely watch that.
Yeah. Yep. But Todd Stashwick, sorry, not Todd Stash. Terry Metalis is on it, and Jerry Ryan. And
I mean, I'll have to see it because I'm interested in what they have to say.
Right.
And this is probably giving Wesley way too much crap, but it is really difficult to watch those. He's just so over the top. Oh my God.
He's an excited kid. I mean, he's like
he loves it as close to his heart, which I can understand. But anyway,
I'd imagine if I was doing that, I'd probably be like Wesley too. So
I know, right?
Let's not kid ourselves. Like I wouldn't be holding it together any better than him.
No. And but they're talking with Jerry Ryan and Terry Metalis, and they're talking about Todd Stashwick, who plays that Liam Shaw, and what a good actor he is and everything. And then they go on to talk about the surprise at the end where we see Q return.
Yes.
And,
oh my gosh.
And they said, Terry Metalis said, he said,
they're trying to coach Jack, right?
John Delancey, he said, is such an amazing actor. He only has about 30 seconds at the end of the film, but he just nails it. And I don't know if it was him or Jerry Ryan. One of them said, he stashwicked that fucking. Stashwicked it, like that's now a noun or a verb.
A verb,
Stashwick is such a good actor, so but
very nice.
Yeah,
I joked at the end of that episode. It's like maybe the Q continuum is just Picard's extended family out into the future, and that's why they like to F with all the Picards.
Could be.
Just throughout time. It's like it's a family reunion thing for us.
Yeah. I was so happy to see Q again.
Yeah. I had mixed feelings about it, right? Because the way season 2 ended, and not linear, blah blah blah. But come on, we said goodbye to the guy. Like, that was really powerful stuff.
Right.
So it was frustrating to me that they kind of brought it back that way. But I mean, I also love the character, right?
Yeah.
Like if they found a way to work in Shaw, I'd have mental objections and then emotional acceptance.
And then they brought
you still love it.
Tuvok back.
So
Tuvok.
One thing I wanted us to touch on was I won't call it discrepancies, but let's talk about the Borg Queens.
Please, yes.
So
Thank you.
we've circled
Wow.
back to the Borgs. So in if I'm not mixing up my season, so in season 2, we really have a big play with the Borg. And we're going back in time, and we have this new manifestation of the Borg Queen, right?
Right. Jurati.
And then when we get back to the present time, the Borg has taken on this new purpose as these keepers of these gateways or something like that, at the end of season 2. And then when we go into season 3, it's like we're just going to discard all that.
Mhm.
And now we have the return of, the evil Borg Queen, who's hell bent on destroying the Federation. So I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what the thinking is on a broader scale with the Borg, because they do seem to be, they're inevitably invincible, and they're always around in one way or another. And now they're even evolving, if you will, organically through beings, as opposed to using technology to assimilate. So I wanted us to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. And, I'll be honest, I got to do some more looking into that, because that's kind of confusing to me too. And I was thinking about that a little bit this morning. And, I was almost thinking about it in the way of bees, I guess. And you've got these bee hives with a
colonies.
queen, right?
Yep.
So maybe you've got multiple colonies of Borg. But that doesn't really bear out from what we've seen.
Not from the true collective sense, how it's been described. Right.
Exactly. But then I started thinking, well, although Jurati was kind of an off thing, right? And so maybe she did start a separate collective. But I'm sure there's going to be some more in-depth analysis out there on that from people that are far more into it, and far more detail-oriented about that than I am. But so, yeah, there's the different Borg queens that we've seen. Alice Krieg is on the far right, and she's the one from Star Trek First Contact, and she's also the Borg in this one. And interestingly, she's you only hear her voice in this one. The actress is a different actress, because they wanted an actress that was more gaunt looking, I guess, because she's supposed to be emaciated, right, from this disease. So, so they found the right actress to visually become the Borg Queen, and then they just used Alice Krieg's voice for it. But she's got such a great, memorable voice, so it was great. And then, of course, in the middle we have the Borg Queen from season 2. And she was a great actress. Unfortunately, she passed away last. Was it this year or last year? I think.
Yeah, last year, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then the one on the left, and she's from Voyager, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah. All did great jobs as Borg queens. I'm surprised we don't see Jurati in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll require a little more research, I think, for me to figure out how the timelines all weave together and the Borg queens all weave together. Whether they're supposed to be all actually the same queen, and we're just supposed to assume that they're the same. I don't know.
What's your take on it, Mark?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be some variation on Bill's multiple different types of hives, right? Like, clearly this set of Borg that was operating in the Sol system, it seems like they were just doing their own thing, right? Like when Jurati shows up as the Borg Queen in season 2, she's got it feels like the entire full force of the Borg Armada, for lack of a better term, right? She's got a big hive, right? Yeah. She's dealing with stuff. She's got a lot of responsibilities. This one, they're kind of doing a lot of shadowy stuff, right? Like they're inserting code into transporters and
using changelings.
right? And using changelings as their proxies to get
Yeah.
stuff done, right? So these ones, yeah, and the state of the Borg ship in season 3, at Jupiter was okay. These guys are hanging on by a thread, right? So it seems like it was probably an unhealthy hive, and they'll probably go with some variation of that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think there was anything in the series where they're like, yes, this is what's going on, right? And as fans of anything, right, you find a way to justify
Sure.
whatever's going on. It's all post hoc, or whatever they call that, whatever
Yeah.
Latin is for this situation. But I think that would make the most sense, right? That wasn't part of the collective. It was a splinter.
Right. What do you think, Charles? Any thoughts on it?
I just went with it. Actually, I liked I liked the idea that they had figured out what they call evolve rather than assimilate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Um,
interesting.
It seems a little strange that it took being introduced to humans before they discovered Darwinism. But you think that would have happened someplace else. But
Yeah.
no, I thought that part I thought was fun. Now there's what they were and how all the queen. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I thought one of the things that I thought was genius was whichever writer came up with the idea of using the transporters to manipulate DNA as people are reassembled to incorporate this latent
it was interesting.
Borg.
And very funny, actually, if you take a step. Just all the teenagers are monsters now to the old people.
Right.
Oh yeah, the selective application of Borg DNA.
Yeah. So Jenna, so what the Borg, they get this partnership with the changelings. And these changelings that are disgruntled from being tortured by the Federation and the attempted genocide by Section 31, right? And so there's a group of them that agree to work with the Borg to infiltrate the Federation. And what they do once they get infiltrated there is they modify transporters. And so the transporters, in order to improve efficiency, there's certain components of DNA for humans that are the same across humans, like Mark and Chris and you and Linda and I. We all share certain DNA elements that are common that determine.
I mean, you got to consider too, we are 50% banana DNA wise, so
right.
There's plenty of code to choose from. Anyway,
right. Right. So that code. So what the transporters do is they don't have to figure out the segments that are the same. Once they know you're human, they just insert this certain part of this genetic code. Well, so the Borg get the changelings to go in and modify that standard code to change it such that it puts something inside the brain that can be controlled and taken over by the Borg. And that's how we actually see in First Contact when the Borg are invading Federation space, and Picard can hear them in his mind, even though he doesn't have any Borg implants anymore or any nanoprobes. It's because he has that element of code in him that the Borg stuck in there when he was Locutus. That's why he can still hear them. And so I thought it was very clever the way they played on that and brought that element into that. And so this part of the brain that they're changing eventually matures to the point and stops evolving. And at that point, it's kind of set. Well, so if you change it, which the Borg are doing, you can change it and manipulate it up until the point that it becomes rigid and formed. And so that's why this code that the transporters put in don't affect anybody over a certain age. I think it's like anybody over 25. Yeah.
Yep. It's when the frontal lobe stops development in adults or whatever.
Yeah. Yep. Right. And so consequently, since most ships have a lot of lower level ensigns and such ranks on them. There's a lot of a majority of younger people on the ship. So when the Borg activate that particular transmitter, and it's suddenly 90% or 85% of your ship now is controlled by young, agile Borg drones, you got some serious issues there. So I thought that was very, very clever the way they did that. Oh, and one thing I was going to bring out, Mark, Chris, I know you two will like this, probably Charles. Terry Matalas said they talked about the fact that Q being in the ending and meeting John Luke's son. He said, I always had a question in my mind at the end of All Good Things, when Q is saying goodbye to Picard and he's in those robes and in that big chair, remember, like he's judging humanity at the end, and he leans in to whisper something in Picard's ear, but he doesn't say anything and just pulls back. He said, I always wondered what would he have said to Picard, and I thought maybe that's what he almost told him, was that
he had a son.
Was that humanity's always on trial, and this will continue with your son, kind of a thing. So I thought that was kind of cool. I had forgotten about that part where he leaned in to whisper something to him and then never said anything.
Yeah, you'll find out. Yeah.
Right. You didn't want to spoil it, right? So, but yeah, so
that's cool.
So anyway, I guess anybody have any final thoughts here? We're coming up on 45 minutes into the show.
Just that it's a must see. Going back to Jenna, your question over what will we tell TNG fans what about this show. All 3 seasons are definitely worth a watch. You can get away with season 3 probably without season 1 and 2. But definitely season 3 is an improvement upon the first 2, and it's everything that if you felt maybe was missing in the first 2 seasons, you will for sure get it in season 3 for sure.
Mark, what'd you think?
No, nothing to say besides watch the show. Like it was kind of everything that could be right about going back to a series that you liked from the past. And a lot of times that's done poorly. And I thought throughout, all 3 seasons had something different and fun to offer. And so, I was disappointed that this was the final season, but it was nice that they're like, okay, we have an arc, we have a place that we want to land. And then they get there, right? As opposed to, hey, is it still profitable? Yeah, let's keep doing it. Then, right. So, right. Like they told the story with some urgency because of that. So it was really, really good.
Yeah, it's kind of I see it kind of like the whole issue that's happened with Star Trek Discovery, right? Where they finished filming, what is it, their fifth season, I think, 5th. And then, it's all shot and in the can, and then Paramount decides to discontinue the series. So now they got to go back and do some reshoots to end it properly. And is it going to land right when they do it? Because, who knows how well that's going to tie in.
Well,
kind of a thing.
And the biggest plus for me is the universe was not saved by rock and roll.
Those movies.
Right.
Oh, Linda? They tried so hard.
Yeah, Charles. Any other last thoughts on that?
No, I'm not actually a real big nostalgia fan, but it was still good. It was still.
You loved it.
They did it. They did it well.
Yeah. All right, Linda.
Watch all 3 because there's enough history, I think, and character development that you could watch the 3rd one, but you wouldn't get some of the nuances.
Right. All right. Sounds good. So I'm assuming Jenna, there she is, Jenna. So definitely watch it, Jenna. Have you seen any of it so far, or the first season or second season?
No, because I just didn't want to be disappointed, but it sounds like I won't be. So
You will not, right.
who knows? Maybe I'll go back to Next Generation and start from the beginning.
Oh God! All
Well,
right.
if you're doing that, let me know. I could use an 8th or a 9th.
Right. All right. Well, sounds good. Well, so if you have seen Star Trek Picard, the final season, and let us know what you thought in the comments down below. And also, if you're looking forward to hopefully Star Trek Legacy series with 7 of 9 at the helm of the Enterprise, let us know.
Oh yes,
that as
I do
well.
need a thought on that one real quick. That
Yeah.
is going to be exciting. I can't wait to see that. Like
There's
another
actually-
Enterprise show. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
there's
yes,
actually
please.
a thing out there you can go and vote to get it
Nice.
upvoted. Yeah, so I'll post that link as well if anybody wants to jump in on that, because I would love to see that series. And don't forget, we just heard just a week ago that Star Trek Section 31 series with Michelle Yeoh,
Yes.
not series, but
Movie.
movie with Michelle Yeoh. I wish it would have been a series, but at least we're getting a movie.
We're getting
We
something.
hardly pay
Right.
it
Take it.
now, so
Right.
we'll take it.
And yeah, you got to figure that was a pretty big snag. What with her being a Oscar
Big movie
winner
star now. Yeah.
A
yeah.
movie star.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So check it out. Let us know what you think. Definitely watch it. 100% thumbs up. So take care, and we will see y'all next time. Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Later.
Oop. I wish I was on the ready for that.
Technical difficulty.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.